It's the Misfits.
Hey everyone, it's the 12 Days of Misfits again. We made it all the way up to December 13th.
Yep, we're back in person.
We are in person. We both have survived all of that stuff as well. And today is day 1 of the 12 Days of Misfits. So if you have no idea what we're talking about, from now until Christmas Eve, we are going to be releasing a mini episode every day, walking through 12 different passages of scripture that I have chosen for Brandon to look at and read and tell me how it correlates to the Christmas story. Now, some of them are obvious. Some of them are not obvious. Some of them are kind of in the middle, but all of these, for the most part, are ones that we don't normally hear ever preached or read during the Advent season, and especially not in relation to the actual Christmas story.
Do we remember how many points I got last year? Was like
last year
nine and a half?
Yeah, the goal last year was to get you to double digits, and you got to 9.5. So if you take the decimal point out, you reached your goal, but you didn't reach your goal. Now, this year, the fun thing that we are able to do is that we do have a little bit better technology, so we'll actually be able to keep track of your score a little bit easier this year. Because that was the other issue, is we kept having to go back to the previous recording to actually figure out what your score was. So if Brandon gets it correct, you will hear this.
Ho, ho, ho.
Oh, I like that. That's better than the ding.
Yes. If he gets it wrong, this is what we hear. A little more ominous than our normal.
Yeah,
our
it sounds
normal
like I'm
buzzer,
getting taken away to the dungeon.
That's right. So, we had to Christmas it up. So what's going to happen is Brandon is going to reach into his stocking, which I just now realized may be a little harder than last year, but you'll be able to do it. I trust you. So Brandon's going to reach into his stocking. He's going to pull out a sheet of paper with his verse, for today's verse on it. And today's verse is...
Today we've got John 13, verses 1 through 10.
John 13, verses 1 through 10. So what's going to happen now is I am going to read it, and I'm reading it out of the Holman Christian Standard. Brandon is pulling it up on his phone to, I don't know what translation, but that way he's got it in front of him.
I'm going to be an ESV to start. Sometimes that's good or bad.
Good or bad. You never know. So here we go. John 13, and we're going to read verses 1 through 10. And then Brandon is then going to tell us why this passage is a Christmas passage.
Or not tell us.
Or not tell us. We'll see how this goes.
It's my secret.
So it says, before the Passover festival, Jesus knew that his hour had come to depart from this world to the Father. Having loved his own who were in the world, he loved them to the end. Now, by the time of supper, the devil had already put into the heart of Judas, Simon Iscariot's son, to betray him. Jesus knew that the Father had given everything into his hands, that he had come from God and that he was going back to God. So he got up from supper, laid aside his robe, took a towel, tied it around himself. Next, he poured water into a basin and began to wash his disciples' feet and to dry them with the towel tied around him. He came to Simon Peter, who asked him, "Lord, are you going to wash my feet?" Jesus answered him, "What I am doing you don't understand now, but afterwards you will." "You will never wash my feet ever," Peter said. Jesus replied, "If I don't wash you, you have no part with me." Simon Peter said to him, "Lord, not only my feet, but also my hands and my head." One who was bathed, Jesus told him, doesn't need to wash anything except his feet, but he is completely clean. You are clean, but not all of you. For he knew who would betray him, and this is why he said, you are not all clean. We went ahead and went to verse 11 just to finish the story off. But
That was good.
This is the story of Jesus washing the disciples' feet. How does this fit into the Christmas story?
Ooh, I'm not feeling good on the start here. It's around dinner time here, so I also like that they have supper.
Yes.
I'm gonna want to add that somewhere in there that they're celebrating supper. It's
always got to be eaten.
Got to be why it's correlated to Christmas somehow. No,
not quite.
So for the true Christmas story here, I want to go with something of the washing of the feet being about the purity and the cleansing of sin, but I don't know how to make the connection with Christmas here.
All right, so go back and just look through the message Jesus is giving them.
For what I am doing, you do not understand now, but afterwards you will understand.
Well, there is a little bit of that part of it, but it's a little bit more explicit than that. So go back and look at verse 3 specifically.
So Jesus, knowing that the Father had given all things into his hands and that he had come from God and was going back to God.
That he had come from God, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is the story of Christmas.
Yes.
Jesus has come from God to man. But specifically, there's another piece of this that's not quite as explicit as to why it's an important piece that Jesus mentions his incarnation right this second in the story. Because the entire act of washing the disciples' feet was an act of, starts with an H,
Is it hospitality?
humility,
Humility? Okay.
which is what we have within the incarnation, is God humbling himself to become man and to serve man through the cleansing of sin. So this story here within within John 13 of Jesus humbling himself to wash the disciples' feet was an act of, one, humility towards his disciples of, I am going to take care of you. It was an example for the disciples, which is why he says, you don't understand this now, but you will in the future, of what he wants the disciples to do as well. But in terms of what when we are looking at these things through the lens of the Christmas story, we have the incarnate God humbling himself enough to become human, but not just become human, to become a human that serves other people. So unfortunately, Brandon,
we're starting off on the wrong
we're
end.
starting off with a big 0. So current score, unfortunately, Brandon 0.
Yeah, I was.
This was a little bit of a tougher
maybe
one, but
getting there.
you were, yes,
I was, yeah.
Yes.
If best of anything, quarter of a point, but not even.
Yeah, unfortunately, we can't even go. We can't divide down that far. We know how our math gets when we do whole numbers. So, anyway, this is day 1. You've got 11 more to go. We can get back into this. We can get this back in. So, we will let Brandon group his thoughts back together here, and we will see you all tomorrow for day 2 of the 12 days of Misfits.
It's the Misfits.